everything.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Erica's Easy Prep session. We are in session 7. Today, we're going to be covering math and more reading. We're picking up on our last session of math and reading. So session 7 is going to be a continuance. It's good to see you, Erica, and welcome back, everyone.
Thank you for the introduction. It's good to be seen. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and start to share my screen and we can get right into it. Let me make sure I don't have anything questionable on my screen. No, I'm just kidding. Let me just take my, I'm going to start by showing the class code for like a few seconds. And then we're going to get into everything. Okay, here's the class code for the Google Classroom. Just helps me to communicate with everyone and email you guys when needed. So that's that. Pause the video if you need to. There's also a link, I believe where you find the Zoom link, you can also find a link for the Google Classroom and the Khan Academy. Khan Academy is great for a lot of free practice problems and in like, I was supposed to say in person, that's the wrong word, in like real time, quick answers, correct and incorrect answers. Okay. So we haven't really covered too much in the way of, hold on one second, let me check to see if the other student is. Give me 1 second. I want to make sure I set the correct. Okay, that's me trying to join, so never mind. Okay, just checking. Okay, sorry about that. So these are formulas that we will be given, you will be given for like on the SAT. So you don't really have to memorize them, but it would behoove you to become very well acquainted with them because you're already going to be taking a test that's under time conditions. You're going to have nerves and anxiety and stuff, and you don't want to be seeing something for the first time or even like just the second or the third time. So you definitely want to familiarize yourself with these things. So our first question. I might zoom in on this, get a little bigger. So I'll give us like a couple minutes to figure this out. And then we'll come back and discuss. So even if you're not super familiar with it, just try your hand at it and we'll discuss what you guys get. Now, I will say the formulas that I showed you before, you know, definitely those are going to be one of those, at least, it's going to be needed. So it's easier if you, well, I'll actually put it in the frame, sorry. It's probably easier if you look at it through the doc, the Google Doc that I gave. Okay, so I'll give us to like 2:43 or so, and then we'll come back and discuss. I don't want to do like a lecture before that because I just want to see what you guys would see, like kind of your thinking versus like how to do it, I guess. Okay, so again, I might call on you guys. Be ready for that. If you don't know the answer, you can just say you don't know, because some of these are really tricky. So don't feel bad. But did anyone get an answer? Are they familiar? Is anyone like kind of familiar with this type of problem? Was anyone able to come to an answer? Chat. DM has an answer. Okay, ML, I see you got an answer. Thank you, DM. Well, ML mentioned it. Do you want to walk us through? Thank you, thank you. ML, can you walk us through how you got to, you said answer choice A? ML? Okay, no worries. See you later. Okay, DM, can you walk us through how you got to answer choice A?
Yes. So basically, what I did was wait. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. So basically, what I did, I would use the equation, the volume for a cylinder, which is pi r squared or pi r squared h. Then I knew the volume was 500 as mentioned in the problem, and then I knew that the height was 10. So then all I had to solve for was r squared first, and then r. So then once I divide the both sides by 10, I got 50 equals pi r squared. And then I just divided 50 by pi because I divided both sides by pi. And then I got r squared equals 15.9. So I saw the answer and I was like, that's not like, it can't be D because there's still r squared. So then I did r and then it's 3.989. So I got it 4.
When you said when you got to 15.9, how did you know that that wasn't where to stop?
Because it said r squared, so I had to like kind of recheck my whole work until I understood like you needed to solve more because you need to just find the radius, not r squared. Yeah.
Pardon me. Yeah, that was perfect. Thank you. And I think you bring up a good point in when we're solving these problems. It's easy to kind of get sidetracked, and once we get, just decreasing the size here, once we get kind of on a roll of solving these problems, we think we're done, but we have to make sure that we know what we're solving for, and we go for that goal basically. So here, it says factory designed cylindrical cans, 10 centimeters in height to hold exactly 500 centimeters squared, a centimeter cubed or cubic centimeters of liquid. Which of the following best approximates the radius of these cans? So with these math problems, always want to think of how you want to translate like the math symbols and terminology into words that you understand. And to make sure that you're answering what they want you to answer, not what you think they want you to answer. So a lot of times too, with these math problems, they have a lot of like background information. Usually the background information is relevant. Sometimes it's not, but it's, up to you to decipher which is relevant and which is not. There's not much background information here, so it's pretty much all going to be relevant. It's more like when you have like a whole paragraph of words, it's like you kind of have to pick and choose what's relevant to the question. So the question is, which of the following best approximates the radius of these cans? So what I like to do with math problems is I like to write out what I'm looking for. And I like to put it in an equation, a math equation, because that will help keep me focused as I try to find out what they're asking me to find. So basically what they're asking is, it says, what is the radius of these cans? So r equals question mark. That's what I'm trying to find out. What is the radius? Radius is r equals question mark. So as I'm figuring out as I'm arriving at the answer, if I ever get confused, I can always refer back to this form. I want the answer. When I get to this form, I know I have the answer. You know, it could be r equals question mark or r equals blank. Maybe I should put it like that. Maybe that's more, a little more obvious. I want this to be on the same page. So I'm gonna just decrease this a little more so we can see this at the same time as I'm typing everything. Okay, so Divya is correct when with the formula she used. We see it says, hopefully you guys can still see this. It says a factory designs cylindrical cans, 10 centimeters in height, et cetera, et cetera. So cylindrical, this word here, means I'm looking for a formula that involves a cylinder. So the square, sphere, triangles, and all that good stuff. So the cylinder is here. And the volume for the equation for the volume of a cylinder is V equals pi r squared h. So V equals, let me see, equation. Let me see if I can find I'm just gonna type out pi because I don't have actually one second, I don't have a shortcut for that. Pi, there we go. B equals pi r. That means squared h. Because it's confusing to look at like that, I'm going to clean it up just a little bit. So each of these things is being multiplied. R squared, or to the second power is what that means, times h. Okay. So this is what we have. And we want to get to this form. That will be our answer, the orange. So what we have, and what it's useful to write out, oops, that's still on. It's useful to write out what you know as you try to orient yourself with math problems. So what we have is V, or volume, equals 500 cubic centimeters, and the height, h, equals 10 centimeters. We also have another piece of this puzzle. We have pi, because pi is it's constantly, you know, it's always the same thing. It's like 3.14. So let's put everything together that we have so far. We're going to put it in this form. Or, I mean, you could do it a different way. You could either write it out 500, that's volume. We're just plugging everything in that we have. 500 times pi r squared times height, which is 10. So then it just becomes, well, I'm going to rewrite this with pi spelled out because I like to write things out all the way, just so there's no confusion at all. So now, I mean, right here, we see very clearly that the only letter we have, the only unknown we have here is R. So that's what we're going to be solving for. And remember, as we're trying to solve, as we try to arrive at our answer, we're always going to be trying to get it to this point. This highlighter might actually be distracting. I'm going to take that off. So we want it to get to that form. We are far from that form, but we see the potential there because we have an R right there. Okay, so like Divya said, we can start by dividing everything by 10 in our quest to start to isolate the variable. When we say isolate the variable, it simply means getting the variable, well, getting it like this right here. Isolating it means it's by itself. So you can divide both sides by 10 because one way I like to look at it is as you try to isolate the variable or get the variable, the letter that is by itself on one side of the equation sign, so you can see what it would equal, because what is on the other side of the equation sign is what the variable would equal when it's in this form. As you try to do that, you are basically undoing everything that is being done to the variable. So here, we see that 500 equals this that's on the right side of the equal sign. And the variable here, R, what's being done to R is that, firstly, it's being multiplied by itself or raised to the power of 2. Then it's being multiplied by 3.14 or pi. Then it's being multiplied by 10. So as we, in isolating the variable or getting this variable by itself, we're undoing each of these things one by one. So the first thing DM mentioned was she divided both sides by 10, and that's to undo this 10 here. So we divide one side of the equal sign by 10 and another side by 10. This side, the 500 divided by 10 is 50, of course. And so then dividing this side by 10, we just X out that 10. So now we have 3.14. Actually, I can just copy this here. And this carries down. Now, again, still don't have the form we want, which is R equals blank. So the next thing we can do is we can undo this 3.14 or pi. So we can divide both sides by that. Now, in your this is definitely a calculator question, I would say. You can estimate things too, but I would say just use a calculator for this. I think basically anytime there's like a pi involved, you can use a calculator. So if you use your calculator, you can actually, there is a pi, should probably be a pi button on your calculator. So, okay, we're undoing multiplying the R, or our variable, by pi. So we're gonna divide this side by pi, or 3.14, and divide this side. So when we do that, on this side, we get 15.91, well, it's like 92, equals, and now we're getting closer and closer as we peel away the layers of what's being done to our variable. So now we have R2, which is the same as R squared. So now, right here, I think DM had mentioned how she was kind of like, I kind of feel like that's right, but she realized it was like something was kind of missing. And what was missing was we still don't have this form. Now we can have it backwards. We can have it blank equals R, because this is the same thing. It doesn't have to be, of course, in this order, but we just have to have R on one side of the equal sign and something else on the other. Something else can come first and then the R, but the R has to be by itself, no matter which order it comes in. So we still don't quite have that because we have this, it's r is being raised to the power of 2, and that is what equals 15.9. So to undo this raising to the power of 2 that's being done to the r, to our variable, we have to take the square root. So let me see if I can annotate this and make it look. So we're going to take the square root of that because we have to take the square root of our variable, on our variable side rather. After we get that, we get, just keeping everything on the same side, we get, it's about 3.99 equals r. Now we finally have that form, r equals blank or blank equals r. The point is the r is by itself. So 3.99, that is about 4. So A is the correct answer. So good job on that. Let me just erase what I have here and we can go to the next one. Okay, this one's interesting. I was surprised to see it. Honestly, this is physics. So, which is cool. Because it's really preparing, especially if you want to do any kind of health science or, biology, pre-med, pre-vet, pre-dental, whatever. So I'm going to give you guys a couple minutes to work this out. And I'd like you to try to work it out yourself first because, I just want to see where everyone's at with these kind of problems. I will say, for me, it helps for me to write out everything I have before as I start to figure out, what the answer is. So that's a tip I'll give you. And we can come back here in like 3 minutes. So like 3:04 or 3:05. We'll come back and discuss everything. So I'll leave you to it. Okay, and we're back. Now, was anyone able to come up with the answer for this? Or wants to try their shot at it? Or we can just do it together. Pardon me. Okay, so that's fair. This is hard. I took the MCAT, and that was a very painful test. And we had questions that weren't too far off from this. So, AV, you want to share what you got?
I got B 0.025.
Do you would you like to discuss how you got it?
Yeah, sure. So it says that, well, it says the formula, and then it says what each variable represents. So P is joules stored, and then K is the spring constant, and that's measured in Newton meters or Newton per meter. And then 25, so we basically have to plug in what they gave into the equation and solve for the missing variable, which is X. So you would do 8, which is P, so 8 equals 1/2. And then for K, you would substitute 25,600 X squared, and then solve for X. So to do that, you would first multiply 1/2 by 25,600, and I got 12,800. So right now it's 8 equals 12,800 times X squared. And then I divided both sides by 12,800. So and then square rooted those. So I got 0.025.
Right. Yeah, that's it. Perfect. I'm just trying to figure out how to, I was going to try to type it as you were saying, but I don't have those typing skills for these symbols. But yes, pretty much, yeah. So B is the correct answer, 0.025 meters. And this is one of those questions where it's giving you all this text, and there are fractions and X and K's and all that stuff. But just think too, once you encounter things like this on the test, they usually do give you some kind of, a lot of times they're just leaving out one thing. So by that, I mean, they just want you to solve for like kind of one or two things. So, and in addition to that, they have what you need in front of you, or rather they give you what you need for the most part. So going off of what AV said, if you feel stuck on problems like this, what you can do is write out what you know. And what you know is basically what they've given you. So we have this formula at the top right here, P equals 1/2 KX squared. So P equals 1/2 KX, squared. That's what we have. So when we read through here, we see, I'm just going to type it here so it's all on the same line. The driver sits on the seat and the springs compressed a distance of X meters M. So X, now here, this is how we're connecting this formula to this paragraph, because it says the driver sits on the seat and the springs compress a distance of X meters or M. So right here, it's saying X equals M. So what else do we have? We're trying to get as many things here, or we're trying to like make as many equivalences as we can. So we have a way to kind of ground ourselves in this problem and start to figure out everything. So as the springs compress, potential energy P in joules. So right there it says potential energy is P in joules, is stored in them according to the equation above. Okay, the equation above. What did I do? Sorry. Sorry about that. Okay, we're back, kind of. Okay. Now, according to the equation above. Now, the spring constant, K, describes the strength of the springs in newtons per meter in N over M, sorry. If the springs have a spring constant of 25,600 N over M, how much must the spring stretch in meters in order to store 8 joules of potential energy? So you don't have to understand necessarily, no, actually you don't have to understand what really is going on here. This is physics, it's, you know, like kinetic energy and stuff like that. So what you have to just do is just realize what the variables they're giving you are and what they're asking for and figure out the variable that's missing. So as AV had said. So we see P here, P in joules. So P is potential energy. Computer's freezing. One second. Computer's having a moment here. It's kind of frozen with this screen. Pardon me. Hold on one second. I don't know why it's doing this. My computer's like frozen for some reason. Sorry. Let me see if I can try to troubleshoot real quick. It's like not. Hold on one second. Whew, okay, got it together. All right, we're back. Sorry about that. Okay. Sorry. Where was I? Okay, so I was just writing everything out that we have that they gave us. So we had P in joules, that equals joules. Okay, so then we have the spring constant K. K equals the spring constant. You don't have to write everything out like this during the test, of course, but we're doing this here for the sake of clarity. Spring constant K. It says it describes the strength of the springs in newtons per meter N over M. So that's nice. It gives us, it kind of, I guess that's an introduction to what the spring constant is, because it says right after, if the springs have a spring constant of 25,600 newtons per meter, how much, la la la. So here we have, this sentence before wasn't super necessary. It gave us like kind of background information because the sentence right after it, it gives us our value for K, or our spring constant. And that is 25,600 newtons per meter. Now I make the point that the sentence before this This one right here, pardon me, is not super necessary because, as I said with the last problem, sometimes you have to kind of weed out what's necessary and not get bogged down in trying to use all of the information that they give you. Most of the information here is useful. I mean, we don't even really need to know that the driver's on the seat and the springs and la la la. We really just need to know this equation. We really need to just whittle it down to this equation and what they give us out of this equation. You don't have to really pay attention to the details. Just look at the equivalencies. Okay, or equivalences rather. So I have half. Half is a number. I don't need to translate that. That's a number already. So K, I just got K, that's here, spring constant, which is 25,600 newtons per meter. Now X I don't have yet, but I actually have P because, oh, sorry, I got ahead of myself. The next part of that sentence says, how much must the spring stretch in meters in order to store 8 joules of potential energy? So remember, potential energy is in joules, P equals joules. So I actually have this P right here, this P value. So P equals 8 joules. So let's put everything together that I have. Let's plug it in. Okay, I have P, and again, we're starting right here with this. We are starting right here with this equation. We're plugging everything in that we have. I have 8 joules, half, we already have that, we don't have to translate that. Then we have, then we have K, which is 25,600 newtons per meter. Then we don't have X, so we're just going to rewrite X as it is. So yeah, looks like we have a lot. We have everything but the X value. So we know too, we go back to the question, it says, how much must the springs stretch in meters in order to store 8 joules of potential energy? So here's where a slight disconnect might come if we didn't translate earlier. Remember before, we realized that X equals meters. X is measured in meters, and we know that because the second sentence actually says the driver sits on the seat and the springs compress a distance of X meters, comma M, X meters or in M. So we can, once we realize X equals M, and the question is asking how much must the string stretch in meters, we realize that in terms of this equation, to put it in, I guess, equation terms and translate it from what the question is saying, we know that we're looking for X. So we're looking again, if we're looking for X, we're looking for this format, X equals blank or blank equals X. We want that once we get to that form, we know that we'll have the answer. So after that, it's basically algebra. You know, we don't really necessarily need these measurement points. So I'm going to delete them to not cause confusion. The units as they are. So we are going to just start to undo everything, as we said in the previous problem, start to undo everything so that we get this X completely by itself in this form. So on one side of the equation sign. So AB had mentioned we can half 25,600 or divided by 2, the same meaning. And you get, oh, here this thing goes again. Sorry. You get 8 equals, where's the number? I had it written down. I'm gonna separate that. Okay, 8 equals 12,800 times x squared. So still the next layer to peel off is we have to get rid of this 12,800. We're gonna undo, it's here on this side of the equation sign, 12,800 is being multiplied by the variable. So what that means is that we're going to divide it because the opposite of multiplication is division. So we're going to divide this side of the equation sign by 12,800 and then likewise this side of the equation sign by 12,800. So you definitely want to use your calculator here. And what you would get is 0.000625 equals x squared. So gotten a lot closer, but again, this x is not by itself, it's still being raised to the second power. So the last thing we have to do to undo this squaring, x being squared, to undo that, what you do is you take the square root. So the opposite of squaring is taking the square root. So right there, we get rid of that second power. But we also have to do it to the same, we have to do the same thing to both sides of the equation sign, rather. That's what I meant to say. So once you do that, and these are very kind of like, weird numbers. Once you do that, you'll get that 0.0025 equals x. Equals m, or in meters. You can also have just kept it in meters if you wanted as well, but you would have to realize that at some point that how the m and the x relate to each other within this equation here. So either way you wanted to do it, it would still, you would still work, it would still work, but you just have to make sure that you realize that the x and the m within the context of this question are interchangeable. So yes, the correct answer is B, 0.025 meters. Do we have any questions on this? Okay. Good. DM, would you like to talk about where you made a mistake? Other people might have made a mistake too, but if you don't, I don't want you to feel put on the spot or anything. It's only if you want to.
No, it was just a calculation mistake. When I was doing what was it? The squared thing, I kind of stayed with the 0.000. I just picked A. So.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I know you were mentioning in the last problem how you almost stopped at the before you took the square root of like to get to the final answer, like with the last problem. So that could be one thing you keep in mind, like for yourself, because everyone has like certain things, habits they do. So sometimes you might be tempted to just, only get so far, and then you realize that you have to go just a little bit further.
And the problems always have like those two answers, so you kind of get tricked there. And if you're rushing, you're even more.
Exactly, and they do that on purpose because this, and I like that you pointed that out, because this answer choice A, we got that number. So if you're not completely sure, or if you get bogged down in all the steps and realizing, because we kind of had to write everything out. This is a formula we're not used to. Maybe if you took AP physics. But we kind of had to write everything out and realize and kind of orient ourselves with the problem. So that's why it can be helpful too, to kind of remember like, okay, I'm trying to figure out what x equals or m equals in this case, because x and m are the same. Just for the context of this problem. Or within the context of this problem, rather. So, yeah, that's a good point. So something to, constantly just, sometimes I like to reread the last sentence of these math problems because therein lies the question of the math problem anyway. They're asking you. Pardon me. Okay, so we have, trying to get better with my time management. We have like about a little less than 30 minutes left. We're going to jump into some reading. Ignore that math problem. So we're going to jump into some reading. So I would recommend that you look on your own computer, like on the Google Doc, because it's just really like hard / impossible for you to sorry, I just got a message, Isaac, that Zoom is kicking a student out. I don't know if you're seeing anything on your end. DK keeps getting kicked out. They just emailed me. Oh, it's freezing. Okay. Well, it might not be. It might just be some tech difficulties. I'll share my screen again. Okay, so we will, I will give you like 10 minutes to read this and answer the questions. On the test, you will have, I think it's about 13 minutes per reading passage. That's to read it and to answer the questions. So this, I'll leave it here. I might move it a little bit as, oops. But again, it's better to look at it on your own computer, honestly. It's just really hard to, read it from mine. I'll put it in the chat too, just for convenience. Okay, so I'm gonna just get the timer out. We're gonna do 10 minutes and then we're going to discuss. We're coming back at 3:38 or 3:39, depending on the seconds. All right, I will see you all again shortly. Hey guys, sorry, my other computer is freezing. It's frozen, so. Oops. Oh, there we go. Okay, yeah. So that's why I'm having a bit of an issue here. I'm going to rejoin. We'll discuss in 1 second. I'm not sure why I'm having tech difficulties today. Sometimes they just happen. Give me 1 second.
For me, it happens when I have too many like tabs open. So
Yeah, no, that's true. And I'm terrible with having tabs open. Usually I try to close them, but that definitely slows me down. Getting back to it. Fingers crossed. I've never had an issue with Zoom on this computer before, but it forced quit just now, so. Get right back to it. Second. Okay. Okay. I got in on the other computer and that was an echo. So sorry about that. All right. Yes, fingers crossed. Cross all your fingers. Okay. Here we go. Finally. So I also forgot to add the other part of the passage. So I added that later. So hopefully everyone had a chance to read it. Sorry about that. It's just one of those days. Luckily, DM noticed and told me. So, okay, before we even get started, I would like you guys to talk to me about what are some helpful, when you're tackling these reading passages, what are like some strategies that help you? Some people have certain strategies. You just read it through. Do you read the questions first and then go into it? Do you like what's your approach to the reading section?
for me, well, I underline and I highlight. I mean, you can't highlight in the actual test, but you can underline and circle, and then like kind of write notes down in the sides, because that kind of tells me like where exactly and what exactly I read in that specific line or passage, paragraph.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that would feel like I would do something similar to that. Does anyone else want to share? ML, you said you didn't read the text. Could you clarify what you're saying? I didn't quite get what you were saying in the chat just now.
I was saying when I read a text and there's like they would have text and then parentheses. I would sometimes skip over the parentheses because I get lost where I'm at, or the parentheses don't really mean anything. So I kind of skip. I don't read that. I just uh, keep reading the text.
I see what you're saying. Skip over it. Yeah, parentheses. Parentheses, like we use parentheses like how we use some commas, how we use some dashes. We put unnecessary information in there. The thing is, it's unnecessary to tell the story or to make a complete sentence, but oftentimes it does provide like an extra detail. But you're right, like you could, for the most part, you could skip what's in between the parentheses and still get the main part of the idea. You might want to try, no problem. You might want to try for parentheses so you get like every bit of what they're telling you, because sometimes in the parentheses, they can give you extra clues. It can help to set the tone, the mood, the vibe, whatever you want to call it, and that helps you to answer questions later. So what you could do is, well, what I do is I read the sentence through with the parentheses, you know, incorporating that into what I'm reading, and then just reread the sentence, but take the parentheses out. So read it without the parentheses. So that way you get the complete full sentence, like the original sentence without the parentheses, and then you also get that extra bit that the parentheses give. We only have 10 minutes left. I know I didn't ask a few people their reading strategies, but I'll get you the next time. So I like to hear what everyone is doing. So, just the same thing. It is. Let's pull these out and pray that it doesn't freeze again. I want these to be side by side. So we're going to be looking at these kind of like at the, oh my goodness. Why is this here? I don't know why it says that. Okay. Alrighty. There's one, and the other will have the answers. So, or the questions rather, sorry. So this is a good thing to practice because it's incorporating a graph and stuff, and it's just good to get that practice. Oops, sorry. Okay, so now we have these things kind of side by side. We can kind of look at both of them at the same time. So the main idea of the two paragraphs is that amphibians, what did you guys get for this one? Let's start with Hey, nice. So the main idea of the first two paragraphs is that amphibians. So ML, can you point to a couple things in the first two paragraphs that made you answer choice A?
Yes. I have to look back at the text. Can you hear me?
Yes, I just muted myself because I had a drink of water. I have the text on the screen. I don't know if that would help. It is showing the two paragraphs. I don't know if you can see it okay enough to
Yeah, I can see it.
mhm.
So I read the two paragraphs and I had to read them twice maybe. But and uh it talks about how they they have how the amphibians are at a risk more than ever. Even yeah.
Yes. I think those are good. That is,
And they've been able to survive through the 4 extinctions, I think, mass
mhm,
extinction. But
mhm.
but now, right now, they're at the greatest risk of all time.
Yeah, that's it. It's A is definitely correct. Um, so the first 2 paragraphs talk about how paradoxically in health. Okay, so that's line, what is that, line 11? So DM said she got the answer choice A from, I'll read it, paradoxically, although amphibians have proven themselves to be survivors in the past, there are reasons for thinking that they might be vulnerable to current environmental changes and, hence, serve as multi-purpose sentinels of environmental health. So that's a really good, is that just one sentence? That's a long sentence, huh? That's a really good way to look at it as well. Because, so that's one point of evidence, what DM gave. ML, you also were saying now so more than ever. Trying to find exactly. I like that you mentioned the long-term survivors that have persisted through the last 4 mass extinctions. So if you're surviving 4 mass extinctions, that means that you're, very persistent, traditionally very persistent, as is spoken about in choice A. I'm just trying to see, face the risk of extinction greater than that of any other group of organisms. It never says anything really about that. It says they're facing a greater risk. They're more at risk. This is line 5, 4, 3 here. Line 3, it says proportion of amphibian species are at risk of extinction. Sorry, let's start at line 2. A larger proportion of amphibian species are at risk of extinction than those of any other taxon. And taxon is described below. But the main purpose of this first paragraph is showing that it's establishing, well, one thing too, especially if you're running out of time, or if you just, once you read the passage and then you answer the questions and then you go back to the passage to answer them. This first sentence, amphibians have received much attention in the last 2 decades because of the now general understanding that a larger proportion of amphibian species are at risk of extinction than those of any other taxon. That, in the last sentence of the first paragraph, which reads, what makes the amphibian case so compelling is the fact that amphibians are long-term survivors that have persisted through the last 4 mass extinctions. And the first sentence of the second paragraph reads, paradoxically, although amphibians have proven themselves to be survivors in the past, et cetera, et cetera. So you can kind of break up the paragraphs. You can look at the first sentence and the last sentence of each paragraph, and that will actually give you the answer as well. Now, this is for if you're crunched for time, or if you want to refresh yourself and remind yourself what you read. Once you read the passage, then go to the questions, and then you go back to the passage to read, to parse out what the questions are, the answers to the questions are, rather. So A is the correct answer in conclusion. So I was going to go through why each one was wrong or right, but in the interest of time, I will not. So what did you guys get for number 2? We have a B. B. AV, would you like to answer number 2, please? If you don't mind. And tell us how you got to it.
Yeah, So the sentence that says that is what makes the amphibian case so compelling is the fact that amphibians are long-term survivors that have persisted through the last 4 mass extinctions. So well, C is the only one, I mean, B is the only one that makes sense because the others are, I use process of elimination for this one.
Mhm.
Because the others just don't make sense if you like substitute them into the sentence.
Mhm. Yes, yeah, compelling. This is a little tricky, honestly. Well, Khan Academy is saying that the answer is choice A. I honestly could see B or A. And the reason, so as we're reading it, captivating means, as DM said in the chat, interesting or sorry, yeah, capture your interest. Captivating, captivating could mean compelling in another context. And I honestly think it could almost mean it here too. But you don't see urgent in the context. So compelling, if you're compelled to do something, it means, if you're compelled to do, the thing is, honestly, I kind of question this myself. Like, I'm not making up the questions and the answers and stuff, but I feel like they shouldn't have had captivating here. I think it's very similar. So technically, pause, we're technically at time, but we'll probably go to like 4:10. So we won't do all of these, but we'll go like a little over. Okay, back to number 2. So, pardon me. Captivating and compelling, it honestly fits in a lot here, but I will explain based on what the answer choice they gave is. It might not even be this hard on the test. Okay, no worries. See you later. See you next week. The answer choice is A, by the way. Thank you. Thanks for participating. Okay, so just a few more minutes. Okay, so yes, you get what I'm saying. It's very close, and I don't like how close it is, honestly, because I think it's confusing. But if you're compelled to do something, let's say there's a bulldozer. I have a car parked on the street. There's a bulldozer that is on its way to crush my car if I don't move my car. So because of this oncoming bulldozer, I am compelled to move my car because it is urgent that I move my car. If I don't, it's going to be crushed by this bulldozer. In that context, you wouldn't really use captivating. Like, say if I am compelled to move my car, I am not captivated to move my car. I'm compelled because it's an urgent situation. So compel means, technically means to force or oblige someone to do something. So it does have a sense of urgency, but the way it's used in English oftentimes is such that you can also persist to carry on. DM, what are you referring to?
Referring to like the word in the same sentence that says, what makes amphibian case so compelling is the fact that amphibians are long-term survivors that have persisted. So I looked at that word, and persisted kind of means like last or hold on or carry on.
Mm-hmm.
They've lasted that many years, that many mass extinctions that's why compelling kind of meant interesting and surprisingly, and that
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah. No, it honestly, I kind of don't think, I don't know, I kind of don't like the answer choice they gave, because I feel like it could be either one. I feel like it's even more so answer choice B in a way, but I mean, captivating means interesting. That was the same impression I got, honestly.
I mean, I could see by like the like what they're really trying to say that it's A, because like the whole
Mhm.
passage is about factors and how they're depleting and like it's going down. So kind of makes sense that it's urgent that they need to do something about it. So like yeah.
Yeah, no, you're right. Because the thing is, the question is asking us, as used in line 9, compelling most nearly means. I think it's a close call. I think it's, I mean, for the most part, when you're doing your problems, your questions during the test, definitely trust your instinct too. This one could just be unnecessarily tricky and kind of splitting hairs, but for the sake of answering it as they have, sorry, someone's kind of speaking in the back, but we'll finish in a few minutes. For the sake of answering it as they have, because I agree with you, DM, I think that's the general impression that you would get from that, from just reading that line. I think you have to put this line 9 into the context of this entire paragraph, basically. And the entire paragraph is telling the story of this dire situation of these amphibians. So that would be, even the line before it, it speaks about how the line before it, or the sentence before it rather, large number of factors have been implicated, including most prominently habitat destruction and epidemics of infectious diseases. Global warming has also been invoked as a contributing factor. So the sentence before, that comes before this line, or the sentence that has this line. So those are kind of like very urgent matters, and it's the whole paragraph leading up to line 9 is telling you of this urgent situation that is that needs to be taken care of, lest these animals go extinct. But again, I agree with you. I think it's very close, and I don't really, I don't know. I don't super care for it myself. Technically, so the answer is A. But you got B. I'm right there with you. So let's see another. Okay. So were you guys able to get number 3? It's probably the last one we do. Oh. Um, so it's actually choice A. Yeah, I kind of had the same I had the same feeling as you, DM, where I felt at first it was A, and um then I was like, I'm not sure if that's enough. So here it speaks of the author implies that the study of frogs and other amphibians is especially important because these species. So there, it's kind of, the question is setting us up to find something that makes these species different from others. So it mentions in the text how amphibians are thermal conformers. This is, yeah. Amphibians are thermal conformers. And it says when they're, it speaks about how here, what line is this? 11. Paradoxically, and that's one that you had referenced before. Yes, that's why. Yeah, exactly. Environmental changes, yes. So line 11, paradoxically, although amphibians have proven themselves to be survivors in the past, there are reasons for thinking that they might be vulnerable to current environmental challenges and hence serve as multi-purpose sentinels of environmental health. That's kind of a complex sentence. It's unnecessarily complex, but if you can kind of glean the meaning, it's saying that the amphibians serve as a lookout kind of environmental health. So right there, that line is telling you that they, unlike other species, because it makes a distinction that amphibians are doing this. So that kind of implies that, not to rule out that other species do that as well, but it implies that it's especially amphibians. And they serve to kind of tell you how an environment is. Now, I know we were saying that C was the answer, and it was very tempting to put it there, put it as the answer. But C is actually wrong because although it does outright mention parasites and predators, and it mentions how they have an increased chance to get more parasites because of their wide range of diet, but it doesn't specifically say that they are more at risk for it than other species are. And I think that is the distinction for why C is incorrect. I think you guys should finish doing these questions because these are tricky, and I'm gonna post the answers as well so you can check yourself. So the answer choice, the correct answer here is A. No, we won't answer 4. You guys can do the rest. And if you want, I don't know if you guys, do you want to go over the rest of this passage next week? Actually, we might do that. Yeah, let's do the rest of it next week. We stopped at number 4. We had some tech issues and then just some tech issues today. The my computer froze and we just didn't get enough time and stuff like that. So we can cover the rest of this next week. Sounds good. All right, Isaac. Oh, let me see. There's a chat. Oh, he said yes. Okay, thank you. All right, I'm going to close this out.
Sure. So once again, guys, thanks for coming to your 7th session. You guys are, again, doing well. Stick with it. And I'm sure that you guys will have improvements. Until next time, I'll see you next Saturday. Once again, thank you, Erica. You are amazing. And I'll see you guys next Saturday.
Bye, guys.